Well, hi guys, we just need to give you an update. So we have been pretty spotty on our videos lately. There's a really big reason why.
There's a good reason why.
And some of you are not going to like it, but there are some huge changes that are happening in our life right now.
Yeah.
So we have decided that while the market is still up in our area, that we are going to sell our place and buy a different place.
Now that we've got the other place all finished up, or now that we have the house all finished up, but this is actually a goal we've been working towards. It's not something that we discussed on the channel, but this is actually a goal we've been working towards for the last 2 to 3 years. So it's not anything new for us, but it is new for you, and we realize that.
So there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into this property over the last going on 6 years. For those of you that were with us from the start, you know that we just bought an absolute turd of a property and worked our tails off to try and get it fixed up and get it into a really nice state. So we finally achieved that goal. There were a few things about that property that kind of led us to maybe look at making a change.
Things that had we known to consider that in the first place, they may have been a deal breaker for us, or there were things that if we'd known that they would have affected us in the way that they had, they would have been a deal breaker. But I mean, hindsight is 2020.
Yep.
And so we enjoyed the time living at that property, and
It's a beautiful property, and sad to be leaving it, and but we have some really cool stuff that's happening that we'll share with you guys.
yeah, so it's a little bit bittersweet because we did put so much effort into that property, but as I said, this is something we've been working towards for the last few years, and so it's just time. While the market is still hot, we have decided to go ahead and jump on the opportunity, and so we'll give you more details about what that looks like in a future video, but yeah.
So we're actually coming to you from the property that we're going to be purchasing right now. Filming a quick little video here for you guys, but big things coming, and it's happening really fast. Whether we're ready for it or not, here we go. So
Yeah, I think we were ready for the change because obviously this is something we chose and we've been working towards. We just didn't expect it to happen as quick as it did. So
So we decided to put our house on the market, and we literally had a full price offer within a day and a 30-day close.
we had to wrap up the last few things pretty quickly. We didn't expect that. So
one of the big things that led us to looking to change is that property is kind of in a canyon. Technically it isn't a canyon. There's a canyon through there. But we lived on the north side of the slope there, and so we didn't get a ton of sunshine. And some of the things that we really enjoy are sunshine.
that's the reason that we moved to Southern Oregon. That's the reason we relocated down here. When we purchased the property, I had no idea that, I mean, it makes sense now, but it wasn't something that I really would have thought to consider, is to not buy a property on a north-facing slope. So what that meant for us was that in the wintertime we had about 30 days of absolutely zero sunshine on the property at all, and then an even longer extended period, several months where we just had very low sunshine. So like it would kind of barely hit the property and then it would be gone. And so obviously that increased as you got closer to summer, but the majority of the winter there was no sunshine on the property, and so it felt like you were living a little bit like living in a cave. So that's very difficult because I do my mood and everything wrapped around that largely is affected by sunshine. And as we mentioned, the reason we moved to Southern Oregon is because we were looking to get more sunshine and less rain. So
And so we both notice when it's nice and sunny outside, we're in a great mood. and sometimes we'd be pulling into that property and diving down in there, and it seems like every time Dee be like, "It's so dark in here." So the property that we are purchasing is a complete opposite of the property that we just had. It is another fixer-upper, so we we are going on that journey again. We'll have a lot of stuff to share with you guys as we work on cleaning up this property and kind of getting it into the shape that we want it to be.
So one of the other reasons that that I personally like struggled with that property is it's far away from anything. It's about a 35-minute drive to get to pretty much anything. So you need something from the store. Well, you've got to count on probably about an hour and a half trip by the time you get into town, get what you need, and get back out there, and that's at a very minimum depending on where you're going in town.
Most Lowe's trips were like 2 hours minimum.
Yeah, so that was really difficult, especially when you're working on a fixer-upper. You're always needing something. It's also very far away from all of the friends that we've made since we've moved to Southern Oregon, which is really difficult also because I felt very isolated and just away from all of the people that we've grown really close to, and so that was difficult too, the social aspect of it. I did work from home for a long time, and so that just meant I was at home most of the time by myself, and while that's really nice in theory, it can be a struggle too when you're far away from everyone and everything, and it can feel really isolating. So that's something that I really struggled with as well with that property.
So being a little closer to friends and family is that's super important. We had a scare a few years ago where I was at work, coming back home from work, several hours away, and Dee Dee got stung by a bee, and she got stung by a couple of bald-faced hornets, and almost put her into anaphylactic shock. She
did put me into anaphylactic shock, actually.
She almost died on the cabin floor.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to get an ambulance there. Thankfully, I had her go inside and take a couple Benadryl that I think probably saved her life. But pretty scary situation at the time. And so I'm sure there'll be a little more peace of mind being a little closer to services and those sort of things.
Yeah. So when you think about it, when you have an emergency, are you prepared to wait 45 minutes for emergency services to show up? So, and in that situation, I was home by myself. None of our neighbors were home. We don't have many neighbors anyway, but none of them were home. So there wasn't anyone I could really turn to for help. So that was a really scary situation. And at that point, we had already wanted to move, but that was another that was another thing added to the list of reasons why I really felt kind of passionate about being a little bit closer to services. It's not something that you necessarily think of. I mean, because generally speaking, Robert and I are both young, fairly young, middle-aged, I guess now, but we're
Upper middle-aged now.
Robert and I are both fairly young and in good health, so you don't really think about that kind of thing when you move far out in the middle of nowhere. When we moved out there, I did not know that if I was to be stung by a hornet that I would go into anaphylactic shock, and so that's not something that you can foresee and plan for, but it is definitely something to consider. Just a word of advice that if you're considering moving to a remote property, just take that into account. And it's not just us that's actually had an issue. Our neighbor last summer, I want to say, they had a gentleman up at their house who was doing some tree trimming and cutting for them. I think he was falling a couple of trees, and a little girl up there was hit by one of the falling pieces, and they had to call emergency services. So, I mean, just take that into account if that's something that you're looking into moving onto a property that's really remote. Maybe just consider that. It might be something that doesn't bother you, But I will tell you, when you're in that situation, it can be pretty scary when you're waiting for an ambulance to come and you need services really quickly. So
Yeah. So we've had a lot of discussion about what type of property we wanted to move to. Our last piece of property we had kind of sat up on a hill, and so we both kind of like that.
before we moved to Southern
Yeah, before we moved down here. So we found a piece of property that has an awesome view, and we'll show you guys that in future videos.
It's southeast facing.
Yes, it's well, it's a unique property because it kind of sits up on, I guess you'd call it a saddle ridge, and so you actually have some views out both south and north that you can see out of. So it's pretty interesting property. So there's a little bit of a hillside to the east of us, and then a small knoll to the west. But we have pretty good views out the north and the south of the property. So one of the things we really enjoy doing is gardening, and it'll have awesome southern exposure for that.
Yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to. One of my favorite hobbies, if you follow the channel for a while, is gardening, and it's really difficult because we don't get any sun at all in the wintertime at our creekfront property. There's not any kind of like wintertime growing that I can really do unless I, just really employ grow lights, and it's difficult to grow something with no sunshine. So that would really, really shorten the growing season and make it really difficult to even kind of have a good summer season, just because we were at such a high elevation and being down in that canyon that just made it a struggle to grow up there. So I mean, we had our garden every year, but I'm excited to explore kind of a little bit more of like fall gardening and wintertime gardening, and just kind of looking forward to that, having a little more sunshine.
So the property will be, I think it's a good 1,000 feet less in elevation. I think it's about 1,700 feet elevation. When we were looking at a property that we both wanted, I would love to be on a property in the middle of 1,000 acres in the middle of national forest, surrounded by more forest land, right? So, but trying to balance the wants and desires of both of us in a property, we found something that is close enough that Dee Dee feels comfortable, and then I also still have privacy that I enjoy as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent compromise, which is really important when you have two people that have not necessarily like different goals, but different expectations or different preferences, I guess you could say. Compromise is really important. So I think that we were both able to compromise in a way that we'll both be really happy with the new property, and it fits both of our needs. So that was kind of nice that we were able to kind of stumble upon this.
Yep. So there is, as we mentioned, this is a fixer-upper. There's a ton of work to be done. We'll show you guys that in the future video. We have a lot of work moving and cleaning out the house and the shop. So there'll be a little bit of that in the upcoming videos, but it's happening whether we're ready or not. So we just wanted to give you guys an update, and I apologize that we've been a little sporadic on videos, but there's just been so much going on with everything, with the house being listed for sale and selling, and all the running around that we've been doing in relation to that. Trying to finish up a few things on the house and get it ready.
Yeah, we didn't want to delay putting the house on the market any further into the summer. I think that my thoughts were like, yes, we have a couple of projects we wanted to finish up. We wanted to finish up the retaining wall around the pole barn, and we wanted to finish up the couple of doors in the cabin that needed done. But my thought was, well, let's go ahead and get it on the market. I'm sure it'll be a couple of weeks worth of people coming and looking, and a couple of weeks at the very least before we get an offer. I mean, to me that was like a good case scenario. I did not foresee putting it on the market and then so our house went on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, around 2:00 in the afternoon. Within an hour, our realtor was calling saying we'd like to do a showing at 5:00. So they did that. They did another showing the next day at 2, I want to say. And by 5 p.m. of the next day, we had a full price offer on the property. So it was really fast. It was kind of a whirlwind.
And a very short close window
Short
on
close.
it.
We kicked it into high gear to finish up some of the projects. And so we did our best to do some of the filming. But when it got down to the wire of us doing
Something had to give in it when it was filming.
Yeah. When it got down to the wire, you know, there just wasn't time to always pick up the camera. So we did our best. We're doing our best. But yeah, from here on out, we'll be able to show you more of what's going on and whatnot.
So I'm, as Dee Dee mentioned, it's a little bit bittersweet leaving the place that we worked so hard on over the last number of years. But I'm super excited to show you guys around the property and kind of what our plans are for the future as we kind of take this property and make it our own.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you guys hanging in there with us through all the crazy stuff that we do. And hopefully you'll join us on the next stage of the wild journey that has become our life. So,
Yeah.
thank
And hopefully this will be the last place we'll be filming from. We both have the desire to never move again. I think we've landed on a property that is fit really well for both of us. And so hopefully this will be here as long as we're able. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but some really exciting prospects also for the property. So like Robert said, we're looking forward to taking you guys along and sharing that with you.
All right, it's real. It's happening. So
Buckle up.
thank you so much for joining us, guys. Hope you have a great day. See you later.
Bye.